All right, guys, Callum is back for another video here. We got him on last year. He's our resident head-to-head man, and he's going to help us out sort of putting together a bit of a strategy, some thoughts from him there, and then talking about creating a side ourselves when we get into my head-to-head team here, guys. And if you are looking to try and beat me in head-to-head, if you want to beat Callum as well, let us know, and we'll jump in your league. But it's obviously going to be pretty tough to beat us, eh, Cal?
Yeah, totally.
Exactly. All right, mate. Just firstly, just around trading with head-to-head strategy, how do you look to play that from sort of round one? Are you looking to trade hard early? Where are you looking to save trades?
Really through the middle, especially through the buy rounds and stuff like that. Getting out of those early money makers if you make a mistake. There's always some that you think are going to be guns and some that you aren't. And yeah, so I feel like using some early just absolutely makes sense, because if you get left behind, you just really can't catch up.
Yeah.
And through the middle, and I just like to save however many I think I'm going to need for those finals, something like 6 trades, a fair bit for those last few weeks. And sometimes you just have to be super stingy through the middle, which is hard.
Yeah, for sure. And then if you stingy through the middle, you're preserving your keepers, right? Just for the end.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the easiest ways to save trades is like through Origin. I'll hold Origin players through Origin and stuff like that. To trade them out, to trade them back in, that's 2 trades. That's just one way you can save trades, because if nothing's worse than having your team stacked and running out trades at the end when you come into finals. There's no point playing head to head if you've got no trades at the end, you just can't win. So
yeah. Big thing, mate, is obviously team value. And I know you were talking about last year. Did you say you ran a second team there to try and get the most ridiculous team value possible? Talk us through that, mate, and sort of where that team kind of lacked, and what really helped come the end of the season.
If you're talking about the team that I did just purely on to generate team value, it was just sort of a team where like 17 million or something horrendous. I'm not sure it was like a million more than anyone else, but to be honest, the only thing I really learned is that you don't have to pick a captain. I didn't run a captain all year.
What do you mean by that?
If you don't pick a captain for the first round, if you just never pick a captain, it never makes you. You can have a complete team without a captain. I did learn a bit about there's as much risk in losing values and players as gaining it. So I guess I learned a bit about that. Because if you're holding a player that's losing 150 grand, especially if he's not absolutely dead set that he's going to be there in the team. So I learned a few things like that, but it was just kind of fun just to have having a play around.
Yeah, for sure. It's good to know. Obviously, if you're looking at that, like there'll be times as an overall coach through the year that you'll hold a guy that might lose close to that 100K. How do you decide then if you think that if they are going to go past that and there's probably not too much chance of a bounce back, or are you seeing sort of one real low score and then in that scenario trading them out as quickly as possible if they're not like a top tier keeper?
That's the boring fantasy, isn't it? If they're not going to be in that top tier, but then I held can't even think of the name. The Panthers fullback.
Edwards, yeah. You stuck with him.
100 grand for him, and I just sat with him all season, and it just hurt because he was just never really quite a sell. Whenever I look at my team, the first thing I look at every week is what player is a sell before what's a buy.
Yep.
Because I think, especially when you start out, you start looking at all the good players you want to buy, and then you look at who you have to sell to get them, and that's just a recipe for burning trades. So I look at my team, who do I need to get rid of? How much money does it give? What's the best way to spend that money? And unless there's like a screaming buy like Hopgood early last year, if you didn't start with him, you did have to do something about it. But that doesn't happen all the time. So yeah, I try not to sell someone unless I really think they're causing me real issues. And man, every week I just thought Edwards was going to come back right, and he just never did, man. I could have saved about 100 grand or 150 grand and bought drink water at the same time, but I thought it was too risky. And yeah, it was definitely the wrong way to go.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good one to think about, is that if someone is sliding a bit, not often do they actually really push back, either keep hold of where they're at right now, and then scream back into 100, 150K, making people, they do seem to go on runs, don't they? Which is probably the big thing I noticed last year that kind of helped my team do really well, was that I was jumped on those guys that were on the runs at that correct time, where, that Edwards one really, really hurt yourself and a lot of other coaches there. So it's, really cool about you talking about the guys that are on your sell list. Do you sort of have like, 3 or 4 or 5 and kind of list them in order of the guys you want to sell first? And then if there are sort of buys that you really like, you can decide which of those sort of 3, 4 or 5 that has to go based on that.
Yeah, it's just every week. You just got to look at your squad. I mean, ideally, some weeks there's just no sells, and sometimes there's a player you kind of want. But if you've got, I don't want to sell a player if he's still got another, say, 60. I think it's another mistake people can make. You buy a cashier, he makes you 100 grand, and then you sell them for another cashier, but then your first one actually slowly ekes out another 80K. If you're selling them too early. So I really try not to. Won't specifically have a list of sells, because I mean it's fantasy. You just can't predict what's going to be in the future. But I mean, let's face it, we play enough that you get a pretty good idea that, man, this guy's he's done. Yep, sometimes the suspension makes it easier too.
Yeah. Thinking back now, myself making mistakes with guys like Tanner Boyd, even Preston, probably just a little bit early. That he might have been like 60 to 80K, who could have been like a fringe keeper. And going, I'll get rid of that guy to get that next value guy or something like that. Whereas, I think being able to get as much of a team value or high as a team value as possible will be really helpful, of just milking those that little bit more. Yeah. And a lot of time, were you noticing sort of if they had sort of 60K to go or something like that, they might have a break even that's up in that 30s, but they have the potential to hit a 50. Is that kind of what you see there? And people just jump off?
I mean, once again, it's just the core of fantasy, and that, like, if you think that the guys, there's no point holding on to a guy for 4 weeks to try to get an extra 20 grand out of him. But I mean, like Tanner Boyd he saved me last year because I didn't sell him exactly for that reason. And I've been lucky with a few players I held. Everyone started with Avarillo a couple of years ago. He was useless. Everyone sold him, and then he came right. It saved me a few times, but then every so often you get the Edwards, which it just kills you. So that's where I try to save trades. I try to be frugal. Unless a guy needs selling, I won't sell him.
Yeah. No, it's very simple, and that gives you plenty left over at the end. If I had my strategy there, mate, I sort of had there leaving 6 to 8 trades for that final 4 rounds in your finals. Do you see that as something that you do, or is it more, is it less?
No, that's ideal. I mean, it's one of those things you set yourself, that's absolutely the goal. And then with fantasy, often sometimes you're burnt. You don't actually have as much as you want there, but that's in my head exactly what I want. I want to go into finals with a team value 500K more than my position, and I want to have 6 to 8 trades to move those players around. That's my goal.
Yep. So that 2 a week is good. When you're starting out and making your team, how many guns are you looking to start with that are top tier?
Kind of directly relates to how many cashies you can get, isn't it? I think I haven't fully set my team yet. I mean, no one really has, I suppose, till teamless, but I've probably only got about 3 real guns. I look at head-to-head strategy as kind of like stamp collecting, where I just want to have all the guns, all the best stamps, all the best guns. So if I can, that's another reason why I don't sell them. If Payne House is going through Origin, he's a guy that I just know I'm going to want on my team. I just hold him. And so for me, starting with him is awesome, because I'll just carry him all the way through. He's going to be a gun. Grant, Cleary, Hines, those guys you're absolutely just going to want in your final 17.
Yep.
For them, I'm not even obviously value is always the main thing I look for, but those, if you don't have to ever trade them, they're going to be there. To me, what's a trade with 100 grand, 150 grand? To me, that's 100 grand worth of value, not having to trade them. So to me, Cleary, if he stays at $1 million all the way right through, if I never have to trade him, to me, that's $100,000 worth of value. So any of those absolute top tier guys, those are the ones I look for first. And then after those guys, I try to get as many of them as I can. Sometimes even centers. and some of the cheaper players, like I'll often start, because if you can get, sometimes you can get an absolute gun center for 650 grand. If you can get two of those, it seems like a lot of money, but you've locked down those two positions. But in theory, it's fantasy, obviously, but
Yeah.
you've locked those two positions down for the rest of the year. And, that's just a problem solve. Those are ticked boxes. And then it just hunt for value everywhere else I can.
Okay.
So I don't have yeah, but obviously, like everyone, I try to pack as many guns as there I can. But realistically, especially this season, there doesn't seem to be that many cashies. I think I'll probably only have three.
Okay, so that would just change. If more cashies popped up, you'd go for four, or you'd just try and build as many as you can early. And that's the big thing that we do speak about, is that each position has their top guys. So, Heinz Cleary, 70 odd, right? Grant, if you can get him as the best scorer, let's just say he's a 60 guy, you're getting him with that 60 each and every week, where if someone else has got a 50, you're beating them by 10 in that position. So that's where you're looking to get, Haas is the best in his position. You got Grant the best in his. Getting the top and the top of each, you then, as you build and get those stamps, as you're saying there, you might have 10 of the top guys in their position, then 12 and then 13 and so forth until the finals time. And then, when you get to that head-to-head final, the guy that you're coming up against, if he has, 11 of the best guys and you have 13, it's just, even if they have a slightly off day, they're probably on par with the secondary guy that your opponent has as well. So, I think that's an awesome strategy, mate. And then that team value is just the way to get you there, right? That's pretty much the big thing of where I was talking about with my head-to-head strategy there, was just how do you get all the way to that top team value. What are your thoughts on loopers, mate, especially with head-to-head matchups? Are you looking at your opponent there and sort of the team that they've got and using loops to affect that or go against what the other person's doing?
I will sometimes. Sometimes I won't. Like, it's at the end of the day, the most, if your goal is to score more points, and then when it comes to the finals, when it comes to late, if you really want to win that head to head, then yeah, definitely, especially late in the year, like you try to pick your matchups where hopefully you can win, especially late in the season where the teams are so similar that, yeah, like, I've had some big head finals and there's only like one year and there's only two players different. It was like,
Wow.
yeah, and I mean, it was wild. It was actually kind of fun, but all the other players just became irrelevant. And I think that's a big thing where the team value just really helps, because if you've got those extra two loopers, if your teams are almost identical and he's got two gun players and you've got two gun players, but then you've also got two more guns on the bench that you can loop if they swap. When it comes to the finals, that's just massive, and you have to have the team value to do it. So
Yeah,
that's
cool. And then at the end there, are you potentially looking for a slight point of difference player when it comes to a finals matchup, or just get the best guy?
I just try to score. I'm just not a pod guy. Like, I just want to score the most points. I put the guy and I think is going to score the most points. You can do pods if you think, if I think I'm going to, like, when it comes to finals, if I think I'm going to lose, I'm going for the pod for sure.
Okay.
The less confident I am, the more poddy I'm going to get. But yeah, generally I try not to do that. I try to hope that the other guy gets scared and gets pods.
Yeah, I suppose the easiest way to pod as well is through captaincy, if you want to change that at that time, can't you? Because you can swing sort of 20 or 30 points depending on who it is. We might have a Cleary and a Hines, and you pick the other one, and what it like could be 100 one week, could be 70 for the other guy, and that's a good enough pod anyway. So mate, let's get into our head-to-head squad here. Before we do that, guys, Callum is one of our private group subscribers for last year and this year. We actually got to go and check out the Warriors game, the second to last game of the season together, which was plenty of fun. So, guys, all the information is in the description and in Discord as well. If you'd like to join, Cal got plenty out of it last season. So let's get into this one. Grant, Haas, Cleary, we happy with that as sort of our top three?
Yeah, those are probably just about my first three players picked. I've actually ditched Haas since then, but yeah, those are the exact type of guys that you just know you're going to want them at the end of the year. So, I mean, even if they lose 100K or something, I mean, it's not something that you want to have happen, but the dream scenario is you just carry them right through.
Yeah, Beautiful. Someone like Josh Curran is going to be a must, obviously. We'll have him in the mids for now. Piakura, going to be in there as well, right? Got the guys with sort of easy value. Of course, it's not working for us. Who are some guys that you're looking at, and what positions are you kind of looking to fill, or you just go straight to where the value is once you've got that first three?
Yeah, value. Personally, I like forwards. I like the second rowers and the mids because it's just a more reliable pick. It just suits my style more. You know, like it's just so hard to predict what a centre and a wing fullback's going to do. So I'll stack my bench with every value like second rower I can and mid I can because I go real heavy and I go real light in cover for. But then it depends, you know, if the values with centres or wing fullbacks, I'll put them in there. But for me personally, yeah, guys like Q's just the guys you just can obviously you can never bank on anything in fantasy, but the guys you feel like you can just bank on that 10 points of value, that's just my team is gonna be stacked with.
Yeah. Would you be looking at someone like a Fogarty heading into the start of the season? Are you going a bit lighter in that second man?
Yeah, I really wanted to stick with Cleary and Hines. I tried to make it work, but my main thing there is those $1 million guys are so hard to get in. You have to use so many trades. It takes about 3 trades to get them in.
Okay.
Those
So
$1 million guys, you can virtually never just straight trade with them. But I've gone away from Hines and put Fogarty in currently because I just do think that he's got real value. And for me, that is, you know, obviously, like I keep saying, just so important for me.
Right. And then you will just try and get Hines another way at some point?
Hope he gets injured.
Yeah, shit. In terms of the edges, is there anyone that's sort of standing out to you that sort of I haven't spoken about too much?
Nah, I get most of my information from you, man.
What are we going with? How do you reckon Wong's going to go?
Well, it's like if it's just got to wait till Tuesday. You know, if he gets picked, then yeah.
Cool. We'll have him in there and say that he's one of them. It could be him, could be Crichton, whoever that is there. Any of the centers you're liking at the moment?
I might go something at what did I just chuck in before? I think I've got Seb Chris and Sawali as my centers.
That is spicy. He burnt me too hard last year at center. So does he worry you at center?
Yeah,
if that's what he gets.
It's only if he gets named on the wing. And also good with him being relatively expensive. You know, I'm just really unhappy. I don't like centers at the best of the time. I hate playing center roulette. And yeah, so at the moment, I've got those 2 guys sitting in there.
That's fair. Where is Willie? 518. Well, I suppose that helps at 518 just to say he gets the wing spot. Let's play it at the moment that we get some type of cheapy center, whether it's Trebojevic or Strange or something like that, just to see how the team ends up.
Yeah, if we don't get any cheapies, I'll probably go really quite expensive and try to pull it out of somewhere like mids where I know I can get value.
That's fair.
I'll either go real cheap or real expensive on centers more than likely. Penasini and stuff is pretty tempting. So this guys like that probably pretty reliable and still probably have a bit of value.
Yeah, that's fair. So Swilly could be him for sure. 3.8 milli left. Guys, sounds like Campbell. I'm going a little bit quiet and a little bit cold on him now. NL Physio's player profiles that literally just come out in the last half an hour. So if you do want access to that, please jump in the private group as well. I'm about to post that in there after I do this video. So Campbell doesn't look great for him. It hasn't been training with the main group. So I think we have to scrap him from our thoughts in the wing fullback, which actually opens it up a fair bit more. Was anyone standing out to you, mate?
No, I literally just chucked him out of my team and I'm just staring at that blank spot and just don't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, let's just pretend we get Savage because that's a little bit of cash as well at 350. And then it's it's tough from there, isn't it? You know, we're looking at guys like Jack Bostock, or we're just hoping that like a Rob Derby or someone like that gets the starting spot, don't we? It's super open, that center and wing fullback. So we'll probably have a few different teams this year to start, won't we?
Yeah, for sure. There just doesn't. Last year we just seemed to have so many bottom dollar guys that you could pick and choose from, whereas this year it's just slim pickings, which just makes everything else so much harder because you've just got to spread that money. You know, you got to take it from somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. We'll throw Lustig in on the interchange as well. We're very likely to get whether it's that Dylan Egan or someone like that could come up really cheap, and we're looking at KO Weeks and the like there. So really nothing too much changes from there, but really it's just those starting players, and you look at this, right? Let's just say all the interchange guys are anywhere between 400, 450 or whatever, all the way down, right? So none of those guys are keepers from there. We look at this starting team, and who of these guys could become keepers, right? So Fogarty's just outside that range. Pap is obviously at 495. If we pick Suoli, let's just say we change Suoli and got Penasini, which could be fun as well, just given we're likely to call him a keeper, which could be cool.
Yep.
And then we'll try and build sort of how we can get to those guns there. So Josh Curran, one of those guys that could potentially become a gun, either in the mids or the edge, at least sort of that he has that 50 kind of range, which could be nice as a dual position guy. With Grant, with Haas, even if Haas was downgraded to Murray, let's just say, or someone around that range. So potential for those three. You'd imagine like if Wong was to get 80 minutes, and he could be, but we'll leave those two out there. You've got Cleary and Foggs there. So he is a potential. That gives us 5 there, which is cool. And then Penasini 6. Pap has that potential as well at 7. So if all was to go well in that, let's just say we drop one of those off, which is likely that they're not all going to work out. So 6 potential keepers at this point. How quickly are you looking to get to around that sort of 13 keeper mark?
As fast as I can. It's just also like I'm quite strict on my definition of a keeper is quite high. So like, unless they're really averaging up towards 16. So I wouldn't have the same confidence as Karen I'm absolutely going to want him in my final 17.
Yeah.
So personally, I wouldn't look at him. I'd say, okay, he's a decent mid-ranger. The ideal situation is he's a mid-ranger that starts scoring, 58 every week and he becomes a keeper.
Yeah. But playing close to 80 minutes or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Like guys like I bought Cotter last year for that same reason, hoping that he'd be a cut price keeper, and it didn't work out. But I still think he's kind of sitting this year, to be honest.
Yeah, has potential for sure. Do you have positions then that you're looking to try and get to the guns before others? Like, are you looking to get sort of 3 60-point mids, anything like that first, or no?
I don't have any. I don't believe in balancing squads or anything. I just purely on the value, and you have to play it each week. You can't say I'd like to have team value to be 14 million by round 16 or something, because it's just that the game changes so fast that you just got to do the best you can every single week. Cool. I think it's sort of an advantage of being a head-to-head player too, is you don't have to plan as much. You can be a little bit more lackadaisical about stuff where, like buys and stuff. I don't stress about them as much. Whereas the overall guys, and you really need to start focusing on hammering every point. If there's no value in wing fullbacks, sometimes I'll get caught and have to play 16 players. But I'd rather have 16 good players than burn a trade just to put an average wing fullback in for 1 or 2 weeks.
Yep.
And then, because especially if you're playing head to head, half the time you win by or lose by 50 points anyway. So I run really quite light in cover in certain positions. I will say a mistake I made last year, that was I had way too much money in the bank. I would have nearly $500,000 sitting unspent, and that's a lot of points that I should have had in my team. So that was probably a lesson from last year.
Was that heading into round 1 or just at certain points?
Not heading into round 1, just through like big sections in the middle of the thing. I would sell a play and then there was no one that I really wanted or could afford to jump to. So I'd buy another cashy and end up with 450 grand in the bank. And then I did actually lose a bunch of head-to-heads, and after a while I was like, it's actually just crazy to have that much money not being utilised.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a lesson I learned last year, which I think most people would be pretty obvious. Don't have 450 grand in the bank week after week, but
yeah 1 week or something.
yeah.
Are you an advocate for sort of 50 to 100K in the bank, like coming into round 1? Do you think that really helps, or?
Yeah, nothing's worse than, there's two 250k guys. You've got to pick which one. You get it wrong, the next week your guys lost 10k, the other guys made 20k, and you've got 20k in the bank and you can't swap. And then do you sell two players to get them? Do you just write that player off? You know what? So I like to leave sort of 60, 100 grand, something like that, just a little bit. I like to have that reserve. I hate that feeling of, especially since I'm quite stingy with my trades. I hate the idea that missing out on a player by just a couple of grand. We've all been there, and it sucks so bad. So I try to leave a little bit in there, but I'm not going to be silly like I was last year.
Yeah. I suppose even for those that don't want to leave too much cash, and then 40k would cover those guys that are at the same price, the ups and the downs, unless the cheapie comes out and gains 50k, where you probably have to make the two trades likely anyway, in that one there. So mate. So you say you're fairly close to sort of sorting out your team pending what happens in sort of center and wing fullback?
My team, I've actually been pretty slack. I packed a sand for a while because I just kept wanting to find 250k players, and I just ended up with sort of 900 grand to cover 4 players in my bench, and kept packing sand and putting the app down but I've finally got a squad that's okay. But up until, and it's even worse this year, the two team lists, you can't have your team set. As soon as one player, that you think is going to be in there isn't in there, let's face it, we all just tear our team to bits again anyway. So, well, I do.
Yeah, for sure. And what I stress every preseason is, you can play around and really just learn all the players. If something happens on Team List Tuesday, you've got the guy that you couldn't get, you can now get. Whatever works. If cheapie comes up, then you know who you're trying to slot in. And if you get too married to a certain team, then you get so annoyed when they, you can't fit them in because of the amount of cheapies that you've got sitting on your. You've got interchange 2 all the way to emergency 8 filled with 230k guys that aren't going to play. And it just, it's annoying when you've got a couple of those guns that you have to trade out then. So just don't get married to a side, keep it fluid. You've obviously got guys that the cheapies and the value that if they get the spot they're in, and then sort of plug the guns around that is going to be our best thought, guys. But we're getting closer. It's down to, as of recording this video, 24 days, which is really, really cool. But guys, jump in and check out the podcast as well. I've got the community league code down in the description as well. And a big thank you to you, Callum, for jumping on for this video. I appreciate that. I'm going to be focusing a lot more on some head-to-head content, which obviously is not too different to start the year, but it will be throughout the middle part of that year, especially, and even from sort of round 7 onwards when we're looking for overall guys. We can just keep focusing on, as you said, collecting those stamps and collecting those guns, which is going to be cool. But cheers, Cal. Appreciate it.
Thank you.